House of Hustle TV, producer series.
This is 96 Vibe, and you tune into my video tutorial on how I made my remix for Gravity High by Contribe. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So this is the 96 Vibe remix to Contribe's Gravity High. I'll go ahead and play it out so we can listen to it, and then we'll go ahead and jump right into the production of it. So that's pretty much how you make a track. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. My name is 965. All right, let's get right into it, shall we? All right, so pretty much when Contribe reached out to do the remix for this track, I was really excited. I felt like there were a lot of cool elements he included on this track that really stood out to me, and I was really looking forward to working on. Some of those things were the cool 303 synth he had going on, and some pads in there that really had a lot of motion, some chords. So I thought it would be really cool to have that infused with like a little tribal, like kind of like conga beat kind of vibe thing going on. So yeah, so this track is really heavy on the drums, and I'll go ahead and make sure to really go and explain individually what I got going on in all the different layers. So let's go ahead and jump right into the beat. So right here we have a kick. This is just one of my favorite kicks that I like to use. It's really punchy, it's really deep, and kind of gives me like a tribal vibe right off the bat. Also, what I like about it has a really short tail, so it gives a lot of room for the low end and stuff like that. Those things are really important when you're working on the foundation of your track. If you have a lot of bass going on, you definitely want to look for a kick that really punches through but is shorter tail. And if you don't have much bass going on, then that's when you would want to go for like a bigger kick and stuff like that. So those are usually like the first things you want to look right into. Also, on my master channel, I have this plugin called G-Tune. This is free to download. I like to use this when trying to figure out the key of things. So for example, if I got this kick, it tells me it's on F. Things like that is really cool to have, just to kind of keep the whole track in unison. Other than that, I got DJM filter, which is it mimics the filter on the Pioneer mixer. So I like to use this on the overall track when cutting off certain frequencies and stuff like that, when I'm doing little transitions and whatnot. Spice up the track a bit. All right, so got my kick going on. For the bass, really simple. I decided to just do a regular, really normal, generic kind of bass rhythm. Sounds like this. And this is just a straight sampling from Contribe's original bass that he had on his track. Sounds like this. So I just went for the parts that I really liked, the notes, and then I just used that. And that's how I came up with this. Very generic beat. I added some kicks to just give it a more thump on the bottom. And I feel like what really stands out on this track is this cool little tom loop I got going on. It's just a tom that I looped, that I sampled, sorry. Grabbed the root note and made it into the key of the track. Played out this little rhythm. Really simple rhythm, nothing crazy going on, but add that on that very generic beat, it gives a lot of swing and a lot of character to the beat, and kind of pushes it away from being very generic. Adds a lot of cool movement to it. And that's pretty much how I came up with the main rhythm of the track. Some more layering I had was this cool little loop. So you're gonna see I like to use a lot of loops on my tracks, whether I'm using them for inspiration or ideas. Other times I like to just chop it up. A lot of people are against all that. They like to build their own drums from scratch, you know, skin the animal and carve their own little piece of wood and then sample that and blah blah blah. Nah, man, this is house music, man. We've been sampling stuff since like the late 70s, you know. So yeah, a lot of my samples I like to just reuse them. Sometimes if I really like the loop, I'll completely use it. Other times I'll just chop it up. In this case, it's just I pretty much use the same rhythm of it, but just kind of modified it a bit to fit a little more to the track. So it sounds like this. alone sounds like this. For the processing on this sound, I just have a delay. On my drums, I usually like to add a delay to kind of give a little more background noise to the main sample. Just, I feel like it gives it a little human feel to it. You know, when people play drums, there's always like those additional little hits that happen that you just don't get on you know, electronically when you're working on loops. Also, I added in there Transient. This is another plugin I like to use a lot, Transient Master. This is really good for cleaning up some of those samples, get some of that in betweens with the sustain. You can bring that back a little bit. Also, another cool plugin to take note of, Pancake. I'll use this a lot on a lot of my sounds. So pretty much it pans things from left to right and different speeds, and you can adjust that using this. And just gives a lot of movement to your drums, or you know, whatever you want to use it for. From there, I got a little bit of a stereo imager using waves, some EQing, and a gross beat. For my side chaining, I like to use gross beat. So again, just making space for that kick. All right. So from there, another drum loop that I use later in the track is this one right here. Sounds like that originally, with the processing kind of giving more movement. So again, some more Transient Master. Got a mini filter just to kind of keep it moving throughout the track. I automated the filter on that. Added Pancake. Spread it out a little bit on stereo imaging, some EQ, and some gross beat. As you can see, I raised it up so it's not giving a full effect. Just a tad bit to kind of give it some space, but at the same time let the drum do its thing. Alright, from there, I just got some shakers going on. So for this track, I wanted to use like hi-hats, but not necessarily generic hi-hats. I feel like I wanted to give it a more tribal feel to it, so I feel like shakers are always the way to go. So I got some sharp ones coming in right here for like an offbeat hat kind of feel. So I got one a little heavier, and I got another one on the lighter side. Got those layered, and I also got an additional shaker doing like a different rhythm. So altogether sounds like this. And then on top of that, I got my own little shaker loop. I feel like this one, aside from, I don't want it to sound too robotic, too electronic, so I like to add other shaker loops in there to give it a more organic feel to it. Yeah, so going to the shakers, I added Transient to really clean up that shaker. So you can see if I take it off, it sounds more like this. Really rough cut to it. With the Transient, it really cleans it up. And then on top of that, cleaned up that low end. And then I added, so this is pretty much another sidechain tool called LFO tool. The reason I like using this because it has this cool little curve. I'm just lazy to do all that on gross beats, so this one right off the bat it just has this. And it just gives more smoothness to the side chaining, and I feel like it gives a really cool groove to the hi-hat. I mean to the shaker. It's pretty cool. All right, another top loop I got going on is this one. So this one's just straight off the bat, just threw it onto the project. I feel like it had this cool little tambourine that just works really well. I also really like the rhythm. I feel like it swing perfectly with the track overall. All right, so more drums. We got this low tom loop. So straight from the bat, love the rhythm too. I feel like it really fills in those gaps that I wasn't able to do myself with the track. So it really gives it that hop in that track, you know, and that's what I was really looking for. Aside from that, I also got some drums that Contribe provided in the stems. So there's just additional ones that I just wanted to add on there, little side ones. All right, so another sound I got going on is this wood block. That's it. It just literally does that every so often throughout the whole track. I like adding these random little hits just to kind of give, you know, small details into the track. So since a lot of this track was just heavily based on drums and beats and stuff like that, I wanted to add something else to it that kind of kept it going instead of just playing out the beat throughout the whole song. So I came across this loop, chopped up small bits of it. So there's a specific perk in there that I really liked, and I played this rhythm. Well, it's two different perks. So right there, I kind of give it like a Fisher effect to it, like how he does with his horns and stuff like that in his tracks. So I just play that out for 2 sections right there, and then just kind of let it breathe for another 2, and then bring it back in. So I feel like it's a really cool little effect right there. You can hear it right here. And then it breathes, and then it comes back. I thought that was pretty cool. Switched it up a little bit. All right, so on the breakdown, I added this cool little wood block delay thing. So it just plays out throughout the whole break. But what also makes it interesting is I added this cool plugin called Timeless. And as the buildup is going, I'm automating that upwards to full 100% of wetness. And the plugin's called Timeless. The default preset on here is amazing. I just like how it really has that ping pong effect, and it just sounds like if you drop like a marble and a bunch of marbles in a room and they're just spreading out across the room. So I really like that effect. So I wanted to include that on the buildup. I really intensified that on the second one. As you can see in the first build, there's nothing going on. So yeah, nothing crazy going on for the processing on that one. Pretty straightforward for the most part, just transient to kind of clean up the tail. Stereo imager to spread it out. Low cutoff on the EQing. All right, now going into like the synths of the track. So for the most part, that's all the drums. Just a few layerings here and there. Seems very simple, but a lot of trial and error involved. Sometimes you'll add a little too much and you want to strip back, and then, you know, you're just constantly going back and forth with that in that process. Going into the synths and the pads, nothing crazy. Most of it was just straight from the original track that I felt like were perfect. This is where I bring in my drums and mix it in with the touch of Contribe's synth work here. So for the pad, I sampled his chord. I just found a section of it in the original chord. Here, I'll play the chord. It sounds like this. There was a specific part that I really liked that I looped over and over. And I recorded that, bounced it out to this, and this is how it sounded like. I had added a fruity Covolver, and I'll go more into that right now. And it sounds like this. Just a constant loop playing over and over. Nothing crazy. But what really does the trick is this Fruity Convolver. There's a preset right here called Blur Pink. Click that, and I brought up some of that wetness and brought some of that dry down. Really brought the color out on Sausage Fanner. Added some delays, a chorus. Spread that out on a stereo imager. Cleaned up some of that low end and did some more EQing for it. And a sidechain. And you get this sound. So I wanted to use that sound for like background atmosphere, just to kind of fill up that background. I know a lot of people usually like to use like vinyl crackling or crowd noises. I really wanted to go a little more in depth and use something original from the track to really like pull it together. I feel like usually crowds and vinyls are like the lazy way to go, but it also depends what you're really looking for. In this case, I just wanted it to really be intertwined with each other. And that's how I got that sound going. Again, the chord, this is straight from the original. I really love this chord, so I knew I had to include it. I just have it stabbing throughout the whole track, but then in the second breakdown is where I really let it play out. I really love that little pitch up, so I had to include that. Really emotional, really love it. And then for the next synth that I had going on was the 303s, again from the original track. I really like kind of like the call and response effect that it has. And if you notice, you'll kind of hear it bouncing around back and forth in the mix. That's once again Pancake doing its mysterious, not mysterious, but doing its panning. So right here I have a hard left and a hard right on the pan. This is like one of my favorite settings to play because it just goes back and forth in not an even way, so it just sounds really cool. Let's see what else we got going on in there. Some Sausage Fanner to bring up the volume. Delay. So right here, delay, the time I have it set to 0.17 and got the volume up on it. I feel like this effect alone just really gives it like a robotic feel to it. So this is how it originally sounds. Really clean, really clean. But then we go ahead and turn on that that delay, and it kind of has more of a robotic feel to it. A little fully tip right there I stole from him. Shout out Fully. All right. Let's see what else we got in store. All right, so for the main vocals now, going into the vocal section of the track. One thing I really loved about the vocals that Contribe had on this track was they were recorded in so many different layers, which I just loved, gave more room to mess around with. So this is the main vocals.
Breathe it in, can you feel the pressure fall? Come on, gone, feeling like you can do it all.
Really nice, really loud. But on top of that, I like to add my own chops from the originals to just kind of play throughout the track. You don't want to just keep playing over and over the vocals. So I like to just use different parts of it and make my own little rhythms. In this case, it was just a simple stab that kind of plays out. A lot of delay in there, reverb. And then on top of that, I made my own loop. I found a section of it that I just wanted to kind of keep looping throughout the track. And it sounds something like this. I feel like the track is very simple, so it just kind of bounces throughout the track and it flows really nicely. So some of those other layers I was talking about on the main vocals are like background vocals that came with the track. Just fills up that background. Got some additional ones. These are like little accents. So pretty cool. And then Contribe had his own little stabs going on, so I said why not just throw that in the mix as well. More cool sounds going on, kind of like a laser effect. I don't know, really cool. On top of that, we have vocal risers, so it's pretty much the vocal reversed with a lot of reverb to kind of give it like a rising effect. I like using this for transitions and going into the breakdowns and stuff like that, or leading up to the vocals. Really simple. There's even more ones with like more gross beat kind of to it, or ones with an actual tell. So again, that's just used throughout the track. And then right here, this is like some weird synth laser sound. I don't really know, but I thought it was an original, so I really liked it. I thought it was good for introducing new sections of the songs, and it sounds really cool. Again, like a weird, like swinging effect with like pitch. It's really cool. Right here, I completely included some risers that Contribe had on the original. Same thing, a lot of cool pitch bends. Some even included like lasers or like a more swoop effect to it. Some really cool stuff. So some of this stuff I reversed, and really cool. Now for the effects, there was nothing too crazy, just very straightforward, some white noise. So this one's like a really cool high pitch kind of sound, really cool. This one's like more high pitched. I know I got one more, but I know I didn't use that. Oh, that's right. That's for the second one. So usually that first build, I don't go too crazy, and then the second one I like to just intensify a little more. So I added this additional riser. More gritty. And then here's another down sweep I use for breakdowns. I think that's the only time I used it. Yeah. Really simple ones, just a lot of reverb, and you know, just to really fill up those build-ups. Now for the fills that you hear throughout the song, I had made using loops. So this is the loop for one of the pieces I use. Really trippy sound. So I just used one bit to kind of give it like a knock-in feel. So right here I looped it twice. Sounds like this. The volume on it was really low, so I go ahead and just made sure to double that up, just to make it a little more out there. Now for this other section, I use this loop right here. Kind of like a crazy cool little bongo loop. I grabbed one section that I really enjoyed, and I made this little rhythm right here. It sounds like this. So if you notice, that bongo is just like bouncing back and forth on the panning. So I use a transient to kind of cut that sustain, some reverb, sausage fanner to really bring out the color, and then I use pancake. So that's all pancake. But in this case, I just use a quarter, and it's just going back and forth. So that's how you get that cool little back and forth effect on that. So all together sounds like this. Really cool. All right, and for the build up, to really give it that like house build, I threw in a cool 707 snare. And I just automated the volumes, and I automated the DJM on it, and just kind of kept a low pass filter on it. I wanted the build to have some kind of movement going on as it builds up, but I also didn't want the snare just full blast like playing throughout the whole build. So it's very subtle. So it really fades out right there going into the before it drops, going into the filters. I mean the fills. All right, so that's pretty much how the whole track was made. Very simple, nothing too crazy. Again, short tails on the kick to really make room for the drums. A lot of these drums I just carefully EQ, so each one is having their own moment of shine in the specific areas of the EQ band. And yeah, that's pretty much how the whole track came together. Let's go ahead and talk a little more about the structure of the track. So for the beginning, I wanted to just have a really long intro for the sole purpose of mixing it with other tracks, you know. I like to just have a really simple beat going on that's pretty much cut off on the lows, which is why I have this DJM master on there. So I bring it up on the high filter, so you got some of those lows cut off. And then right before we go into like the main section of the intro where you give it like the full capacity of the bass, we just bring that filter back down to 0. So again, you can hear that pad in the background. All those drums are just having their own moments and playing out. And then in the background, you can slowly start hearing that loop build up. Some of those automations. Right there, introducing some of the other shakers I got going on. And once again, for the breakdown, you want to bring up that high pass filter. Kind of like a little cool off before we go into the build up, introducing that pad. And at minute 30, I go ahead and start my breakdown, and pretty much let that vocal play out. And then in like about this section right here, for the next 15, I just let it completely die down and just let those vocals do its thing, and then lead it right into the drop. That snare kicking in. Yeah, so that first drop is pretty much the same thing as that intro, but now adding some other elements to give it more energy to it. And then, as always, throughout the first drop, I like to just keep adding the elements, taking some out. Right here in this mid section, I like to do like a little small build-up leading to the second half of the first drop, and that's where we really want to bring in that full energy for that section. So let's go ahead and fast forward to that section. And you'll see that in the original version, there was some really cool like glitchiness going on the vocals that I thought were really cool, so I decided to keep those sections just for that switch up right there to kind of just keep it really interesting instead of just playing out the same loop over and over the vocals. Yeah, so right there, we're kind of like in a cool off section where we're cutting off some of those lows and getting it ready to transition right into the breakdown. So a little cool down section here. And then we go right into the vocals with the pads. So in this whole section, we're just kind of keeping a continuous rhythm going. But as we get 15 more seconds in, I start building up those snares and start bringing up the automations on a lot of the delays that I have in the vocals and some of the other elements like the low cowbell that's going on. Just to really intensify the second build up and get it ready to go straight into that second drop. Yeah, so for that whole section of the second drop, you want it to be the most energetic part of the whole track. Very similar like the last section of the first one, but in this case, I actually let the vocals play out with it and just really do its thing. From there, we do another little small mini like build up within the drop, and then we just transition to a more cool down version, and we're just slowly transitioning back down to the outro. From there, just let those drums play out, man. Yeah, and very much like the intros where we're introducing the sounds, we're just slowly taking them out for the outro. And again, I like to do some long outros just to kind of give some room for the mixing, get creative with it, or loop a section. Yep, and that's pretty much how Gravity High, the remix, came along with 96 vibe. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two and got to see a little bit of how my process is when making music. You're more than welcome to reach out to any of my socials if you want to go a little more in depth with anything specifically here that you saw that stood out to you. Then I'd be more than happy to go a little deeper with it and explain that further. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm 96.5. Peace.